Perhaps no other gospel song has proved what the longevity of a scripturally based song can be, as has It Is Well With My Soul. Hardly a week goes by that I hear it on some radio or television program or hear it sung in a church, yet it was written over 100 years ago in 1873. Nearly more than 130 years ago now. I'll relay the story of its writing as it was told to me back in the early 1940s by George C. Stebbins, an associate of D.L. Moody, and a man who knew both Horatio Spafford and P.P. Bliss, the writers of this song. Mr. Spafford was a well-known Christian lawyer in Chicago who also had great holdings in real estate in the fast-growing frontier town. He had been led into a deeper dedication of his life and wealth to the Lord through his association with D.L. Moody and Henry Morehouse, the English Bible teacher who had come to Chicago and had preached 7 sermons on John 3:16. In 1871, the great tragedy of fire struck Chicago, and in a matter of a few hours, much of Mr. Spafford's real estate holdings were nothing but ashes. This proved a real test for him, but little did he know there would be a far greater testing for him in the not-too-distant future. After the fire, most of the young Chicago lay in ruins. The first building erected on the ashes was a building built by Mr. Moody called the North Side Tabernacle. It was at this place that Mr. Spafford kept himself occupied in helping those whose loss in actual money was not as great as his, but like the widow who gave all, they had lost all. He was fortunate, for he still had his law practice, his family, and also had some equity left. In November of 1873, some 2 years after the fire, many of the schools in Chicago had not yet been rebuilt, and so Mr. Spafford decided that he would take his family to England, where his children could enroll in an English academy, not to be held back in their education. Just before they were to leave, a last-minute business development made it necessary for Mr. Spafford to remain in Chicago and to send his wife and children on ahead. He would come later on another ship. The Spafford family arrived safely in New York and boarded the ship Villa de Havre. Soon they were on their way to England, but in mid-ocean there was a collision between their ship and an English sailing ship. The Ville de Havre floundered and sank, taking with her to the bottom of the ocean most of those on board, including the Spaffords' 4 daughters. Mrs. Spafford was found barely conscious, but clinging to a piece of the wreckage. While aboard the rescue ship, which was taking her and the other survivors to England, she was able to draft a short message, which was sent to her husband in Chicago. It read, "Saved alone." When Mrs. Spafford received this message, the tragedy of the fire seemed but nothing in comparison to what this cablegram implied. Money and burned buildings could be replaced, but his children were gone. It was through these clouds of darkness and despair that there shone in the heart of H.G. Spafford the bright light of God's promise. God would not forsake him in the trying hour, no matter what the circumstances. Peace like a river, or sorrows like sea billows. With God, all is well. Captured by this thought, Mr. Spafford quickly penned the words of the song that soon would herald its way through the Christian church and encourage multitudes. It would continue doing so for over 100 years. When he finished writing the words, Mr. Spafford took the poem over to a friend and neighbor who also lived on May Street. His name was P.P. Bliss, the composer who gave the words a most fitting melody, one that has kept the message of the song alive and vibrant all these years. Alfred B. Smith. When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say, it is well, it is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well, it is well with my soul. Though Satan should buffet, though trial should come, let this blessed assurance control, that Christ hath regarded my helpless estate, and hath shed his own blood for my soul. My sin, oh, the bliss of this glorious thought, my sin not in part, but the whole, is nailed to the cross, and I bear it no more. Praise the Lord, praise the Lord, oh my soul. And Lord, haste the day when my faith shall be sight, the clouds be rolled back as a scroll, the trump shall resound, and the Lord shall descend. Even so it is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well, it is well with my soul.